Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The silver light shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. I don't really know how to explain this to you, but I've recently come across incontrovertible evidence that our time stream is being messed with. Let me explain. In the 1990s, I was given the job of being in charge of a database for a local school's library. And I had to enter every single title from A to Z into that library. Not glamorous work, but the same token, pay was right, and I did it. But here's a little interesting coincidence between all the Silverlight fans and myself. When I was answering the Berenstein Bears, and yes, I purposely say that name, I had a school teacher come up to me. And this was a good school teacher. She'd been there a good couple of years. It wasn't her first rodeo. She was very knowledgeable. And she said to me, "Hey, Silverlight," not my real name. And she said, "You know, these things are written Berenstein, but they're pronounced Berenstain." I said, "Oh, yeah, good bit of knowledge, thank you," because that particular teacher and I were on friendly terms. And she went on about her day just as somebody normally would. So I entered an entire database full of the entire Berenstein Bears collection with that knowledge in place. It's not burned into my memory, but at the same token, it can never be forgotten. Over the years, I've noticed a number of time slips, personally. I had a rather major incident happen in my life. Put me in the hospital, did all sorts of things. But the same token, an interesting side event happened. I had a specialist in the hospital. He said, "You need to monitor this particular test." I'm sorry to be vague, but the fact is, I couldn't remember the test. So I went to my regular doctor and I said, we need to run a test. He said, "What kind of test?" I'm like, "I'm not sure." So my doctor subpoenaed the records. Well, not subpoena's the wrong word. He basically asked for the records. And I had never been in that hospital according to their records. I didn't exist according to them. This has always bothered me. And I noticed these little time slips, the Mandela effect. Yes, I remember that too. And it was not Steve Biko, it was Mandela. Because I happened to have asked my father who he was, and my father described Nelson Mandela, not Steve Biko, because I remember my conversation with my father. And he didn't say Steve Biko. And I remember the Genesis song, I think it was Genesis or Phil Collins, whatever the heck it was. And that came out after or before, whatever the heck it was not connected to the reason why I asked my father. Just something happened on the news, and I asked what the reason for Nelson Mandela having such a controversial stance in life was. And my father just said, very calmly, very non-judgmentally, he said, okay, in his country, this is the way people are treated. And this is what he was standing up for. And his methods of going about his business are a little bit controversial. I'm paraphrasing a little bit of what he said. It was a much longer conversation. Fast forward a lot of years, I'm noticing a lot of Mandela effects. The whole Darth Vader, I am your father, whatever the heck it is, don't care. I might have misheard it the first time. I listen to all these shows going on where people have this exacting list, and some I agree on, some that I don't. But the crazy thing is, it's been happening more and more. I'm able to recall certain events, like, for example, Chris Jericho debuting in the WWE, the Millennium. And they had the Y2K Millennium thing going, woo, woo, woo. And then Chris Jericho comes out, even though it was a couple months before, the year 2000 came out. Same token, it's kind of this bizarre linchpin around a whole lot of events around it. And what you have to understand is, what are your memories really worth? Are we all being controlled? Is there some sort of thing that makes us forget? Or more likely, maybe there is an error in the time stream. Tonight, just tonight, my little girl had her best friend stay over. And it was about 2:30, 2:45 in the morning. They came down and said they were hungry. Now, you can't tell little girls, I'm not going to make you anything, go back to bed. It's not 1963, it's freaking 2022. So I said, okay, give me 5 minutes, let me throw some things together. And my best friend's little girl, who was staying over, didn't like what I put together, which is okay. You know what? Taste is a purely subjective thing. So I came up with another recipe. Bing, bang, bong. They're fed, they went up the stairs. But I specifically remember being slightly annoyed because it was 3 o'clock in the morning when they decided to come down and ask, hey, can we get something to eat? Yeah, but what are you going to do? They're little girls. And then my wife came down and she was sitting on the sofa with me. And I looked up and the clock was at 3 o'clock again. And I damn near lost my mind. I was sitting there saying, hey, there's a second 3 o'clock tonight. And it's not a time change. It's not anything interesting like that. It's just simply, there were 2 3 o'clocks. One in which my little girls and my best friend's little girl came down. And one in which we had already moved an hour, but the clock stayed the same. My wife, of course, dismissed me. I don't blame her. She's an extremely practical woman. That's one of the reasons I love her so much, is that she can stand right in the middle of a firestorm and plant her feet and just say, okay, we're going to weather this thing. I'm a little bit more mercurial, but the same token, I'm kind of the one that when your feet are to the fire, you want me on your side because I'm going to make stuff happen. I don't know what's happening with time. It goes back to I think it goes back really to Waco. And yeah, that was a disaster, but it had such an effect on the public consciousness that I think perhaps there's a window open in time at that point. Then, of course, Y2K, the big disaster that never happened. But the same token, if we hadn't taken action to prevent it from happening, it probably would have been a hell of a lot worse than anybody realizes. 2008, the stock market crashes that devastate the world and literally topple banking institutions. Massive repercussions all over the place. 2012, the Mayan calendar end. Even though most of us didn't think much about it, there was a significant underground following that were insisting something weird was going to happen. They might not be incorrect. After all, not many people were talking about the Mandela effect. Not many people were talking about the Berenstain Bears. And nobody was talking about multiple timelines inside a single night. And then once you get out of 2016, we had, 2016, 2017, the big celebrity death match where they all just started dying off one by one. 2020, need I say more? And right up to the present day, so many things have been happening over the past 20 years. It's hard really to keep them in historical context. So what I'm saying is, keep your clocks handy. Keep your phones handy. There's something afoot. And to be honest, I'm not sure what yet. I have an idea. I don't have a plan. But the most important thing is, keep watching, keep documenting, keep this information going. Because honestly, I cannot explain it. Well, I can explain it possibly if you're willing to allow me to take gross exaggerations in the current scientific explanations. But for that, we wish to thank you for joining us for the Silverlight Show. My cats have decided to start fighting, so here's where I'll leave it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. And we hope you have a fantastic day.